Small note before we start this chapter. I have been informed that this fanfic is being regularly updated by Kira18, the author, but for some reason it's not showing as so in the updated and published records. So it has been updated. Last time it was updated was February 2nd of 2024. That's what it says on AO3. For all we know, it could have been updated 5 days ago, and it's just not showing up. But yeah, on to the fanfic. As My Heart Gives Out by Kira18 on AO3. Chapter 2. Give Up on It All. Anyone here from Midoriya Izuku? The entirety of the room occupants seemed to hold their breaths as Aizawa and Shinsou both shot to their feet. Their movements were mirrored by Bakugo and Kirishima, as they followed after them a moment later. Right here, I'm his guardian. Aizawa's voice, although steady and low, seemed to waver as he spoke. Is Izuku okay? Shinsou asked, the urgency in his voice barely masking the desperation in his tone. The doctor's eyes seemed to narrow slightly, a calculating look feeding across his features as he registered the underground hero with a heavy gaze. His scrotum shifted to the kids surrounding him briefly before focusing back on Aizawa and Shinsou. He apparently having reached his own conclusion, his gaze hardened as he nodded slightly to himself. It's too early to say, I'm afraid. The man began softly, almost tentatively. Midoriya's condition was critical before he even got to the operating room. The wound to his chest was severe. The man gathered himself before elaborating. He arrived with a collapsed lung and a failing respiratory system. Furthermore, the EMTs reported multiple occurrences of heart failure on the way here. It was only sheer luck that we got him in time. Just 1 inch deeper, and the rod would have pierced his heart. Taking in a deep breath, he continued. Thankfully, the oricotomy went relatively well. At the questioning and confused glances he received, he explained. In other words, the foreign body was removed and the lung was debriefed and then repaired. However, as you all already know, the trauma to his chest, although urgent and severe, was not his only injury. Shinsou, Uraraka, and Kirishima visually flinched at his words. Bakugo and the rest of the students gathered around, with a little more subdue in their reaction. They all seen all too clearly the injuries that marred Izuku's body, out there, under the rain. Without going into detail on the numerous fractured wounds and severe bruising we detected throughout his body, the trauma to his right arm was unsalvageable. The bones to his forearm and elbow were crushed beyond repair, and infection had already begun to set in. The next words seemed to physically pain the man. We had no choice but to amputate. Sharp intakes of breath could be heard as each one of them processed the doctor's words. Aizawa's voice was cold, detached as he spoke. Can we see him? I'm afraid only you, as his legal guardian, you are allowed to see him at the moment. When Aizawa looked ready to charge past him, then and there, the man continued, voice grave as he spoke. However, there is still something you should know. The doctor's tone alone was enough to stop him in his tracks. Around him, the rest of the kids had similar reactions. Their momentary indignation at being unauthorized to see Midoriya was momentarily forgotten. Dread seemed to pull around them in waves, as the doctor spoke once more. You have to know, each time a person flatlines, the body is shutting down, even if just for a moment. Midoriya went through multiple instances of cardiac failure. The consequential oxygen deficiency in his brain and organs may cause complications. We don't know for sure what they are until he wakes up. But he will wake up, right? Kirishima asked, desperately. Eyebrows furrowed in fear and worry. Naive hope trying to shine in his eyes. When the doctor hesitated, he repeated his question quietly. Right? With steel in his voice and a tremor to his words, Aizawa's voiced his suspicion. He meant to say, if he wakes up at all. Right now, with his breathing primarily relying on machinery attached to him, the odds are regrettably not in his favor. The silence seemed to dissonate heavy on the occupants in the room, the temperature slightly dropping as the doctor's words reverberated through the space. A couple of sparks interrupted the stiffening air, startling some of them enough to jump as Bakugo barreled through the group and out the door. A quiet grumble of needing air as he marched away. Kirishima, hot on his tail. This isn't happening, Shinsou whispered, voice inaudible. His clenched hands trembled at his side, barely reacting as Aizawa rested a trembling arm onto his shoulder, in silent support. He'll wake up, Uraraka spoke with a determined certainty, anxious to believe it herself. He just has to wake up, right, Aizawa-sensei? Izuku's going to be okay, right? Right. The teacher's voice broke slightly as he tried to gather himself. He needed to stay strong in front of his students. They couldn't fall apart now. See, even Aizawa-sensei knows it. Momo, why are you crying? Her voice had risen then, going unnaturally high, as she whirled to face her classmates. The girl in question was frantically wiping away tears. She had only known Midoriya for such a short time, but she considered him a friend nonetheless. There's nothing to cry about. Izuku's going to be fine. She was shouting now. Stop crying! He's... Uraraka. Ida interrupted her spiral, hands coming up to grip her shoulders. Uraraka, he repeated in a quieter voice, his fingers coming up to wipe her cheeks, almost aesthetically. You're crying too. That, finally, got her, as she rose trembling fingers to touch her face. Tears doubled as she finally noticed the cause behind her blurred vision. Are you guys going to be okay? I can wait until your parents get here. I already called. You can go, Mr. Aizawa. Please just check up on him. Todoroki, the only one visibly in control of his composure, urged quietly. His eyes hid the raging inferno beneath them. I can wait until... Please. Shinsou spoke up then. I don't want him to be alone when he wakes up. He seemed to snap something within them. That's right. They needed to stay hopeful. Midoriya was a fighter. He would get through this. He had to. Breaking news. Tonight, in a devastating broadcast that aired directly from the League of Villains, the identity of Vigilante Shadow was finally brought to light. In a shocking turn of events, it was revealed that our infamous protector was none other than missing child runaway Izuku Midoriya. A picture was shown on the screen. His current condition is unknown, as the broadcast was cut off rather abruptly. Info shows that he might have been taken to the Kamino Ward Hospital. Is there any news from Eraser? The engine hero asked, as he turned off his phone and stuffed it in his pocket of his costume. I'm afraid not, Tensei-kun. We'll just have to find out when we get there, Nezu answered, eyes trained on Tsukauchi. The detective's eyes were trained on the road ahead, trying his best not to get into any accidents as he sped his way towards the hospital. Aizawa walked on autopilot, feet landing him without conscious thought as he followed after the doctor, who, he now realized, he didn't even know the name of yet. Not that it was even close to his main concern at the moment. His eyes kept going through the man's words, spinning and twisting them in his mind, like a broken record. He tried to decompose and stalk them in hopes of gaining some resemblance of control over the situation. The white, sterile halls of the building felt eerie and all too ominous as he walked through them. The smell alone threatened to make his head spin, not failing to make his skin crawl uncomfortably. He never did like hospitals. His job never made it easy to avoid them, however. He should be used to them by now. Vaguely, he noted that his mind seemed to focus on anything and everything but the subject of his worry, as if his own subconscious was trying to shield him from going down that particular rabbit hole. Finally, after what seemed like an hour's walk, it couldn't have been more than a few minutes, they stopped in front of a door. Various sounds acousted his ears the moment he stepped inside. The smell was even stronger here than it was outside. His heart stuttered in his chest as his eyes finally found their target. There, nestled in the bed all too big for his small form, was his ward, looking paler and smaller than he'd ever seen him before. An image of his bleeding form under the rain crashed through his mind's eye, and he stiffened with the effort to hide his flinch. His skin was ashen, almost blue. Dark circles were prominent against his pallor. His kid was lying on the crisp, thin sheets, as white as the walls surrounding him, looking so incredibly young and even more vulnerable. With silent, slow steps, he walked towards the bed, his gaze fixed and focused on fragments, but never the whole picture. Like pieces of an unfinished, lost puzzle, he's seen the countless wires, he sees the tubes, and the needles. His vision tunnels and shudders like the lens of a shifting camera, zoning in on the bruises and the cuts, the scars and the bandages that practically cover the entirety of the small body before him. It makes bile rise to his throat, bubbling and burning in his stomach. His words threaten to spill even as everything remains perfectly still, unfazed and unmoving. He let his body fall against a chair, slumped onto it, shoulders hunched, with the burden and the worries that surround and suffocate him. His arm moves, almost on its own, as it stretches to move the hair out of his kid's face. His fingers linger on the raised skin above his eye, as it grazes them with a tenderness he'd never known he'd possessed. How had he not known? How had he not noticed? He should have figured it out sooner. Should have done something. Should have done more. Aizawa-san. The doctor speaks quietly, as if afraid to break the silence that had settled the moment they entered the room. The hero only grunts, waiting for the man to say his piece. There is one more topic I need to broach with you, as much as it pains me to do so. His throat bobbed, stomach dropping. What was there left to say? What could possibly be worse than what he had already heard? I was hesitant to broach this topic this early, especially in front of the children, but you are his legal guardian, and the decision, therefore, falls to you. He had a feeling he wasn't going to like where this was going. Given Midoriya's pre-existing condition. Oh, that. Yes, he hadn't let himself think about that yet. He hadn't allowed himself to feel it. Any of it. The doctor visibly swallowed, voice tight as he continued, expression close to devastation. Given his sickness, I am obligated by law to present you with all the options. I hope you're not going where I think you're going with this. Aizawa's voice was dangerously low as he spoke, eyes narrowed with violent intent. Aizawa-san, you are a hero. You've seen the real world. You know that his condition isn't going to get better. It would only be human to consider, why you? Lucas! A calm voice interrupted them before Aizawa could even begin to speak his mind. I'll take it from here. The doctor, Lucas, only nodded sullenly before taking his leave, taking one last look at Izuku's unconscious form before leaving. I apologize on behalf of my colleague. He's seen way too much suffering over the course of his career. I'm afraid it has made him lose sight of hope and faith one could only hold on to. A newcomer looked composed. His face was drawn into a perfect picture of composure. If Aizawa wasn't a trained professional, he would have missed the tightness that overlooked his features when he laid eyes on Izuku. I'm Dr. Hiro. I've been Midoriya-kun's physician ever since the accident all those years ago. He continued, a knowing, sad look prominent in his gaze. Are you going to tell me to give up on him too? His earlier anger had shriveled up, seeping his remaining energy out of him like a leech. He was just so tired. No, I am not. The sincerity in the man's words was almost enough to startle him. I believe in Midoriya's resilience. He is a fighter, in more ways than one could expect from a child his age. I believe in his strength. In him. Will you? Without waiting for an answer, the man turned around and walked out of the room, leaving the hero alone with his ward for the first time. His kid. His sick, injured, dying kid. Sitting back in his chair, the one he hadn't even realized he had risen from, he took a moment to look at Izuku. Silently, solemnly, he took a hold of the kid's hand, his remaining one, his mind noted darkly, fingers tight against his cold ones, painfully aware of the rhythm beeping that accosted the air. The buzzing and whirling of the machines around him were louder now that he was alone in his solitude. It made it hard to shut off his emotions, to turn off the flow of raw pain that seemed to seep out of his very being. And so he sat there, tears silently spilling from his tired eyes, hands clutching onto his kid's hand, as tight as his hold on the hope he desperately wished was real. I'm back! Well, I mean, for you guys, I never left, but for me, I did leave. I was out on a trip we left on Friday, and we just came back yesterday, so 3 days. We were gone for 3 days, and luckily, I was able to get all my videos down and scheduled and stuff like that, and I'm still a day ahead. This is March 4th when I'm recording this, and it's going to be uploaded on March 5th, which is why, unfortunately, I was informed by Kira on one of my videos that the fanfic has been updated, right? And it's just, for some reason, AO3 isn't showing that or whatever. Like, it still has all 10 chapters, it's just not showing when it was updated, and it still says that it was updated 2 years ago. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to say that in the first video because it was already recorded and it was already scheduled. I literally couldn't have fixed that. It was out of my hands, basically, because I was on a trip. It was out of my hands, unfortunately. Stuff like that happens sometimes. Shit happens. But yeah, I'm back, and I want to talk about this fanfic. First of all, oh my god, okay, so it's not all happy, cheerful. I did not expect it all to be happy, cheerful, but Kira 18, it's my birthday. Can you throw me a bone, please and thank you, even though these chapters are pre-written. Throw me a bone. But no, I think it is hilarious how, the whole class is there. The doctor probably, walks in expecting 1 or 2 people, and then just, whole, 21 people just get up, just how's Izuku? I love that. I love that. I mean, I don't love that Izuku's in the hospital, but I love that there's just, a group. I love the fact that they're all there for him. There you go. That's better wording. But yeah, I want to talk about Izuku specifically in his condition. Kira 18 did mention that although this is an alternative ending, it does not mean that it has a happy ending, right? It does not mean that it's a happy one. It's an alternative ending where he doesn't die at that moment. It does not mean he's not going to die. It does not mean this isn't going to be sad. And major character death is one of the tags still, right? So just saying, it still can be a happy ending even with major character death. You'd be, well, not happy ending. It would be a bittersweet ending, I think that's the best we're gonna get, bittersweet. Unless it's happy ending in the sense of Izuku dies at the age of 40 or something, but even then, how the hell is he gonna last that long? But I just want to say, as me, I'm a writer. I've been a writer. I've written fanfiction before. It's out there online and I can't delete it, but luckily, little Echo would put different names under that. So yeah, those are never gonna see the light of day, and you guys are never gonna link that back to me. Thank you very much. Y'all don't need to see the creepypasta fanfictions I used to be writing, okay? Y'all don't need that. Y'all don't need that. That was crap. The amount of grammar error, oh, that was crap. You guys don't need to see that, but as a writer and as someone who continuously, I still write. I mean, I have writing ideas in my head. I don't necessarily study literature. I wouldn't say I'm going to school and I'm studying literature. No, I just like to, do research on literature, see opinions on literature, read literature on my downtime, specifically fan fictions and stuff like that for now. I do have books, I just haven't read them lately. I really need to read them. And I love watching other people talk about literature, talk about writing styles, talk about stuff like that. So, as someone who has some background on writing and stuff like that, when it said that, like, okay, so like he's, not gonna die at, this point, right? Define die, because there's two deaths. There's two types of deaths, right? And I know this because I remember in a roleplay, I was once forbidden from killing one of my OCs, right? They were like, you can't kill this person. If you kill this person, your favorite OC that I have, yeah, your favorite OC, that's my OC. Yeah, they're gonna get it. So, and I'm like, define die. And they're just like, heart beating. Their heart needs to be beating, okay? I'm like, okay, yeah, their heart will be beating. I put them into a vegetative coma state. They will never wake up. Medically, they're dead. Brain dead. But, technically speaking, they're still alive. Their heart is beating. But they're dead. They'll never be the person they once were, right? Those types of deaths, like, as I said, medical death, and then what people would consider a death, which is a heart stopping, right? That is what people would consider a death. People don't they think death, and that's what they think, right? They don't think, oh, right, there's also the vegetative death. Then there's also these other ones that are obscured that people don't even think about. Dementia. Although it's not a type of death, you still mourn this person as if they died, because they forget who they are. They forget stuff. They forget you. They slowly become someone that is not the person you loved. They're still alive. They're still breathing. They're not in a vegetative state. But in a way, they're dead. In a way, they're dead. Same with amnesia. In a way, they're dead. In a way, they're dead. Or let's say people who change dramatically. They go from being one type of person with this type of personality and stuff to completely 180. They're alive, but in your eyes, the person you once loved, the person you once knew, yeah, that person is gone. But they're still there. It's a weird type of death. So, just saying, I'm scared that it's gonna end up being oh, he didn't die. Technically. So, I'm scared. I'm rightfully scared. And as Kira once said in the comments that it's not necessarily that they enjoy watching people cry. And I get that. I don't necessarily enjoy watching people cry and be sad over stuff I write or stuff I roleplay. It's the satisfaction I get that, okay, I know that I'm sitting here and I'm putting this hard work. This is a sad story. This is sad. But it is getting the reaction that I intended. It is getting the emotions out, the tone. And sometimes, I'm gonna be honest with you, the best angst I be writing is when I'm angsty, is when I'm upset. It's a form of coping, right? So when I know that my writing that is supposed to be angsty is making people sad, cry, it is to me, one, ego boost, because, okay, I'm doing something right in my writing. Two, satisfying in the sense of my writing is doing what it's intended to do. And three, sometimes you just want to write major character death, okay? Sometimes, at least for me, sometimes I like to sit there and drink my mug with the tears of my readers, okay? Sometimes I will admit, I make you cry just to cry. I started this fanfic in the hopes I was like, you know what? This is gonna crush my fans. Haha, funny. It ended up crushing me as well, so that kind of backfired. But yeah, I wonder where this is all gonna go. I'm concerned over the name of the chapter, obviously. And the next chapter's name is To Rest, which, oh god, that's actually making me more concerned. Because give up on it all and then to rest. I hope it means not to put Izuku to rest and, pull the plug, but for everybody else to rest, because, okay, he's awake, he's no longer in a comatose zone, things are getting better, we can finally rest our aching hearts. One can only hope. One can only hope. But yeah, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.